Welcome to Ben on Breaking News. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is breaking news. The aftershocks of that horrific Pam Bondi, but I don't even know what you want to call it, hearing, live fest. It would be an SNL skit if it wasn't, the subject matter wasn't the fact that she's covering up a child sex trafficking ring with Donald Trump. I mean, it was so utterly humiliating. Set aside what political party you're from, Democrat, Republican, Independent, something else. I mean, it was just one of the most pathetic things I've ever witnessed, like in life. 40 years old. In my 40 years of life, I've never witnessed something like that pathetic, like in general, like in any setting, to see somebody there doing like Donald Trump shtick, where she was like, and let me tell you, the Dow is 50,000. But people are asking her, why are you redacting the names of these co-conspirators, these powerful business leaders and politicians who were part of this pedophilic cabal? The Dow is 50,000. People are like, what are you talking about? What does this have to do? And you live in Culver City. You're attacking the member of Congress who represents Culver City. What does that have to do with the fact that the DOJ is now spying on lawmakers who are reviewing the unredacted Epstein files at a special facility set up by the Trump regime to spy on lawmakers reviewing the files that should have been turned over back in December, or frankly, back last February, but are now being unlawfully withheld? What do you think, AG Bondi, about Howard Lutnick being on the island? I mean, you are from a district with lots of crime. And, Donald Trump fed her those talking points, and, and Donald Trump, views that as good. Like that is what MAGA views as success. And, Donald Trump posted about it today. He posted this morning, AG Pam Bondi under intense fire from the Trump deranged radical left lunatics was fantastic at yesterday's hearing on the never ending saga of Jeffrey Epstein, where the one thing that has been proven conclusively, much to their chagrin, was that President Donald J. Trump has been 100% exonerated of their ridiculous Russia type charges. Actually, it is the slimeball Democrats, many of them big donors and politicians, that have been proven guilty. Republican loser, sanctimonious Rhino Congressman Thomas Massie made a total fool of himself yesterday, fighting aimlessly against a hopeless agenda of hate and stupidity, as most clearly stated by his crashing job approval numbers. Then he goes on to say, nobody cares about Epstein when he was alive. They only cared about him when they thought he could create political harm to a very popular president who has brought our country back from the brink of extinction. What are you talking about, man? Again, what the hell are you even talking about? The brink of extinction? No, you are destroying the country. You and Bondi and your entire cabal represent the Epstein class, and you are covering up right now the biggest child sex trafficking ring in the history of humankind. You are attacking the survivors. You're saying this is Russia, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. I mean, Putin is in the files a lot. Epstein did seem to be involved in lots of communications with Putin and serving as a middleman between Putin and powerful interests elsewhere, and seeming to suggest in conversations as well that there was lots of financial opportunities, kind of like the ones that like you're trying to do now, Donald, and that you've always been trying to do with Russia since you traveled there in the 1980s. Like we know what you're up to. I mean, Russia. You have a photo of you and Vladimir Putin that's hanging up in the Oval Office, right above the photo of you and your grandkids. It's you and Putin right there, right in the intersection of the Oval Office and the West Wing. Like we know, like we have videos of you doing weird things with your lips, like licking your lips next to Epstein, partying together. And like it's we see the videos. You said he's a great guy who likes girls on the younger side. I mean, you're on audio bragging about sexually assaulting women and grabbing them by their genitals without consent because you're rich. And you say when you're rich, you get away with it. You talk about inspecting girls naked at beauty pageants because you become an inspector if you own the pageants. I mean, you've been found civilly liable for sexual assault. And then there is 38,000 references to you in the redacted files, which shouldn't be redacted. And then in the unredacted files, Democratic Congress member and ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, Jamie Raskin, says there's over 1 million references to you. 1 million references to you in the Epstein files, and not passing references. I mean, these are references to you in deeply grotesque and disgusting ways. You're not vindicated. How could you look at that and say you're vindicated? And that's where I think the American people are looking at this, and they saw Pam Bondi and they were watching it and they were like, ugh, the hell are we watching? What is this regime? Your response to why you're covering up and redacting Trump's name and other names and politicians' names and other powerful people's names is that the stock market is over 50,000 and the S&P is over 7,000, which, by the way, it wasn't when you said those things. And even if it was, first off, most Americans aren't feeling that as a benefit to them. Most Americans are being psychologically tortured living paycheck to paycheck if they're lucky enough to get a paycheck, and they can't afford to pay their rent right now, and they certainly can't afford a mortgage or afford a home. But that's your response to all these very serious questions about covering up child rape? And then Bondi refused to even look at the survivors, wouldn't look at the survivors and apologize to them. Why wouldn't you just say, to the extent the DOJ caused you harm and trauma, we are sorry? By the way, that would, to me, not be anywhere near enough. It's a small start, but she refused to do that. She goes, if you have an issue, you can call 1-800-FBI. How is it that the FBI and the DOJ have not even contacted a single survivor who all want to meet? So while Pam Bondi and Howard Lutnick and the rest of the cabal, the Epstein class, they party at Mar-a-Lago, they party at Club Rose Garden, they party at Don Jr.'s executive branch club, where it costs $500,000 to get access to the White House. While they party at all of these places, you can't spend an hour with the survivors. You can't do the most basic of bare minimum. I hope you've all been able to watch also some of the interviews I've been doing with the survivors. I've been doing long form interviews with survivors. I started with Lisa Phillips, then I interviewed Anushka DeGiorgio. Then I interviewed Haley Robson yesterday. Haley Robson and I spent about 55 minutes speaking, and her story was, again, incredibly tragic. Sexually assaulted at 15 years old, then lured from high school by Epstein, then sexually assaulted by Epstein in West Palm Beach. She was from the Florida area. She finally gets out of Epstein's orbit after years of sexual abuse, rebuilds a life. Her boyfriend, who she thought she was going to marry, then gets murdered right around 2006 mysteriously, and they never found who the murderer was. And now she suspects it probably was someone connected with Epstein who killed her boyfriend, given all we know now about the dangers of this cabal. She talked about how the photos, images, underage girls were released by this DOJ while they've covered up the men. The predators got covered up. And the survivors and the underage children, their identities and photos and abuse photos got leaked. You all probably remember that when this latest batch of documents was released, which was only a partial release, MeidasTouch Network and Aaron Parnas and our whole investigative team, as we were looking through the files, we would see that we're like, you have an entire stack of images of underage girls right here. And we had to reach out to them and say, take that. What are you doing? Take that down. What the, you had one job. This is the exact stuff you shouldn't be really, what are you doing? And then they removed that, but then they also removed internal reports from the DOJ about their memo of future co-conspirators and things that shouldn't have been removed. One thing that's not getting enough attention from Pam Bondi's hearing, which I want to emphasize here, with these millions of documents that are being withheld, Pam Bondi is claiming that they're subject to what's called a privilege. So there are redactions, and then there are, which are just blacking out the names of supposed to be survivors, but a lot of them have been leaked. But they're blacking out the names of people. But there are wholesale documents that are being withheld on the basis of privilege. So when people say, where's the FBI interviews with the victims and survivors? DOJ, FBI are withholding it, claiming it's subject to a privilege. Do you remember a few months back I warned about that? And I was saying, remember I used the word deliberative process privilege? Deliberative process is a privilege that's used in an active criminal case, which basically says the criminal defendant can't request the internal communications of the FBI with the DOJ lawyers during an active case. That kind of makes sense though, right? During an active criminal case, you have to turn over all of the evidence, which is called Brady material, that could be exculpatory if you're the prosecution to the defendant. But your internal communications, your playbook as prosecutors, your strategy doesn't get turned over, right? You wouldn't want the criminal defendant, potentially the bad guy, to get access, right, to the playbook that the prosecutor, their internal emails. What should we do here? Which witness are we going to call first? Should we call this expert? What's that expert going to charge, right? That's deliberative process. Why is that term? It's deliberating the process behind the prosecution. But so I want you to understand, why is there a privilege? I teach this at law school, to undergrads and law students. Why would there be a privilege at all, you may be asking? Because in a normal criminal case, you wouldn't want those types of communications being released. But in an Epstein Transparency Act case, where the criminal case, the deliberative process is over, right? And the law requires the production, there isn't a deliberative process. There's no deliberating at this point. By the way, I think that after what we've seen, there should be some deliberating on future people who need to be prosecuted right now and criminally investigated who are in this file, right? In Norway, their former prime minister, their former, one of their other top ministers as well, Thorbjørn Jagland, has been formally charged with being a part of Epstein's cabal. We're seeing ramifications happen in other former prime minister of Norway. It's a big position. But the Trump DOJ said there's no further process. Let's use their words, right? There's no further prosecutions. They say that there's no other bad actors, which we all know is bullshit, putting it lightly. Criminal bullshit. Let's just say what it is. So by their own admission, there's nothing to deliberate to assert a deliberative process privilege. So I wanted to go a little law school professor on you to explain, but that's how they're withholding all of these other documents. And that just also goes to show you what this cover-up is like. So Trump says Bondi did incredible. She was amazing. She was great. Okay. Let me show you what I thought were some of the key moments. I'm not going to show you all the clips because you've seen them now a lot of times. But there are a few key moments that I think are instructive that bear mentioning again. First, Congresswoman Becca Balint. We don't play that many clips from her in the past. She did an incredible job. Her questioning was on point. Her questioning was on very specific people. Lutnick, Felon, Feinberg, Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, Felon, Navy Secretary, Feinberg, big deputy position in Trump's government. Are you going to be investigating these people? Have you reached out to these people? Right? These are names we know for sure. By the way, Trump's one of the main people who should be investigated by the DOJ after these files were released, before these files were released, based on what we knew already. But let's watch first with Balint's cross-examination here at Bondi. Let's play it.
Yes or no, has the Justice Department asked Secretary Lutnick about his ties to Epstein?
Excuse me. Secretary Lutnick has addressed those ties himself.
I'm asking you, has the Justice Department specifically asked Secretary Lutnick about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein?
He has addressed those ties himself.
Has the DOJ asked Secretary Phelan about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't know whether he has addressed those or not.
Has the Deputy Secretary Feinberg talked to the Department of Justice about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein? Yes or no? Has the Department of Justice talked to Deputy Secretary Feinberg about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, which are clearly spelled out in the files? It's a very simple question. It's not a trick question. I'm just asking you.
Yeah, I'm stunned that you want to continue talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Epstein
Okay.
I'm
reclaiming my time. I'm asking you not a trick question, a simple question. Okay. So what is clear is we have evidence.
Do you know who Chris Malin is?
We have evidence that 3 senior officials within the Trump administration have ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And what
does ties mean?
I can conclude from what you are
mean?
saying that you have not talked to them.
What does ties mean?
I think Americans would be shocked to learn that you are not interested in talking with these officials who have ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
What does
across
ties
the world,
mean? Can you define that?
Across the world,
can you
prominent
define
men
ties?
who've been exposed in the files have resigned their jobs in disgrace. And that's a good first start. And that same standard should apply here. And Americans want accountability.
Who is Chris Malin?
Was the president aware? Please stop talking. It is not your time to ask questions. It is not your time. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chair.
One second.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Vermont.
What are ties? What do you mean by ties? Yes. We mean that Howard Lutnick took his little children to the island where child sex trafficking was taking place. He brought his kids to that island, and he brought his friends' children to that island after he previously said that when he met Epstein one time in 2005, he knew that Epstein was a predator. He knew that Epstein was the worst person out there. That's what he said. When he met him in 2005, he knew. So then in 2012, you bring your children to the island? To the child rape island? That's where you bring the kids? And then you do a business deal with the guy a few days later? And then you think you should still be the Commerce Secretary representing business interests of the United States abroad? Do you think, would you want to do business with somebody who was like that? Would you want to do business with somebody? My dogs are angry in the background. They don't want to. Show you the next clip right here. This is one of the things I want you to focus on about the privilege issue. Remember, I talked about deliberative process privilege. Here's an email that Congress member Dan Goldman holds up, which I believe is a 2009 email that is forwarded from Epstein to Ghislaine. And it's an email, though, from Epstein's lawyers and Trump's lawyers. And what I believe is behind the redactions, based on what all of my sources tell me, it's basically Trump's lawyers telling Epstein's lawyers, we know that Epstein was never actually a member of Mar-a-Lago, so he couldn't have been kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. He was always just a guest. And so this contradicts Donald Trump's statement that he kicked out Epstein from Mar-a-Lago because he was never actually even a member to begin with. And that, I believe, is what's behind these redactions. I believe what happened was Trump's lawyers offered basically a statement, an email averment in lieu of even an affidavit or having to be deposed, because I think his deposition was going to be taken, which I wish it was taken, but it wasn't taken, where they provided the background about his relationship with Epstein. I think that's in this email. Why would that be redacted? They're making a claim the DOJ is deliberative process. Here, let's play this clip.
I also found an email that I have right here from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell that was unredacted. And it included notes of statements that Donald Trump made about his prior relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, there is no reason for this to be hidden from the American people. There is no privilege. There is no attorney-client privilege. And I see you're checking with your staff. And I can assure you, staff, this is not under attorney-client privilege because it was sent from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. Will you commit to publicly providing the unredacted version of this so that the American people can understand the extent of Donald Trump's lies about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
You're about as good of a lawyer today as you were when you tried to impeach President Trump in 2016. Have you apologized for that in 2019?
So will you unredact this? Will you
were
unredact
lead
this?
counsel on that. Privileged.
I'm asking you, will you unredact this?
Privileged.
Privileged, of course. I look forward to discussing this more.
Privileged. You heard what she said there. One of the things that Congress member Dan Goldman was pointing out, though, just to give you another kind of law professor look into this. He's a former prosecutor. He knows the rules of evidence very well. Let's even assume it was attorney-client privilege or deliberative process privilege, right? Internal communications within the Department of Justice, or let's say an attorney-client communication. You know, I'm not even sure what the attorney-client claim can be, because if it's in furtherance of a crime, there's something called the crime fraud exception. But and I'm not really sure why Epstein's lawyers' communication should be privileged. But set that all aside. The moment Epstein sends that to Ghislaine, there's no more privilege. The privilege gets waived because it was forwarded to the client. The client holds the privilege. And when you communicate it to a third party, now it's waived. His message to Ghislaine is no longer protected or shielded by any type. So when she goes, "You're as good as my lawyer." If I gave that fact pattern to a first-year student of an evidence law class, and they said that was subject to a privilege, they would get an F right away. It's the most basic legal concept. So why are they redacting that document? But I want people to focus on that document specifically. There's a lot to focus on and a lot we want out there. That's one of the documents that we need out there, because it is specifically about, I think, the issue that he was never kicked out of the club. That's what I believe that's in there. let me just show you this clip. Congressmember Neguse from Colorado, lawyer, great cross-examiner. Watch what he did with Pam Bondi. Here, play this clip.
General Bondi, 6 days ago, you posted online, quote, "If you come for law enforcement, the Trump administration will come for you," end quote. I want to show you just a brief video. It's about 30 seconds, and I'll ask you a couple questions about it.
You guys are disgusting, man. Hey, you guys are disgusting. I'm former law enforcement. You're disgusting. You are the Nazi. You are the Gestapo. You can't see it because you're chasing your pension, right? Pension. Your retirement, right? That's what runs your life, your retirement. The sad thing is they're not even going to get their pension because it's going to be worthless. And shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Attorney General Bondi, that man works for you now, right?
Who was that, Congressman?
The man in that video, the one who was in the police-worn body cam footage, the one allegedly yelling, "Kill him," at police officers on January 6th, his name is Jared Wise.
He does work for us.
He works for you at the Department of Justice.
He does.
This is an individual whom a federal grand jury indicted for 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors related to his participation in the attack on January 6th. One of those charges was forcibly assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, and interfering with police with the intent to commit another felony. This is who you choose as the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America to hire at the Department of Justice. Someone on video yelling, "Kill him," at police officers, right?
I believe he was pardoned by President Trump.
Oh, he was pardoned. You're right. You're right. Pardoned by President Trump for his offense. Pardoned for yelling, "Kill him," at police officers. And yet you expect hardworking police officers across the country to believe that you take law enforcement seriously. You could imagine the reaction of so many folks across the country hearing the chief law enforcement officer of the United States refuse to even condemn what that individual whom you've now hired did. But
The people who are at the DOJ are the people who yelled, "Kill the police." And you wonder why it's such a lawless regime. And you watch her and you see her behavior. And again, if you thought that was good, then I truly can't even, there's no hope. There's, to be fair, and we'll talk about this when we come back, I've been seeing a lot of right-wing podcasters, and I study all of this, a lot of MAGA, ultra MAGA, from Tim Pool to Nick Fuentes to Andrew Schulz, all of them, saying that that was horrible and that Trump is horrible now. And it's just fascinating to see this shift happen, and it's accelerating. And we're seeing it accelerate. And there's a lot of reasons for it, and I think the biggest is the Epstein files, in the sense that it, I think, broke the hole in the armor of MAGA and allowed people to start saying, if you're lying about this, it's all a lie. It's one big lie. When you say that prescription drug prices are down, lie. When you say there's no inflation, lie. When you say you brought us back from extermination or extinction, lie. There's everything, every word, every single word from the guy, everything he says is a lie. He's a crazy person. He's a liar. He's a dangerous, vile felon. He's a sexual abuser, found civilly liable for sexual abuse. He's a bankrupter. He's a fraud. He's a criminal. He's a bad guy. He's delusional. He's demented, like a demented, sick human. We'll take our first quick break of the show. We will be right back.
Do you find yourself being sluggish throughout the day and just need something quick and convenient without the use of nicotine? That's why I started using Ultra Pouches, and I'm in love. Ultra Pouches are completely nicotine-free, caffeine-free, and packed with nootropics that are designed for mental clarity and enhanced focus. Ultra Pouches provide the same kick as a nicotine pouch without the side effects like addiction, crash, jitters, or gum rot. Most pouches elevate cortisol, raise blood pressure, and keep your body in a constant stress state. Ultra Pouches let you keep your pouches, but with a cleaner kick. Ultra Pouches give you that great pouch experience that I actually like, but without the nicotine. The flavor, the burn, the kick, the habit without feeling wired at night. 90% of users saw significant improvements in their overall focus levels. A calm, steady flow state focus, enhanced memory, smooth energy, mood balance, all with zero nicotine and natural nootropics. These are also trusted by top athletes, entrepreneurs, and engineers around the world. Ultra is the ultimate guilt-free pouch, delivering instant focus and mental clarity without nicotine or caffeine. New customers can use code MIDAS to get 15% off at takeultra.com. That's takeultra.com for 15% off with code MIDAS. After your purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know that we sent you. The MeidasTouch podcast is brought to you by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. What we're seeing right now is a coordinated effort to replace democracy with Christian nationalism. That's not hyperbole. It's policy, prayer in public schools, religious exemptions to civil rights laws, judges signaling that church-state separation is optional. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is fighting back in courtrooms, in legislatures, and on the front lines of the Constitution. This isn't about attacking religion. It's about defending freedom for everyone. If you're tired of extremists hijacking faith to strip rights, stand up. Visit ffrf.us/New Year or text Meidas to 511-511 to learn more and join. Go to ffrf.us/New Year or text Meidas, MEIDAS, to 511-511 and help protect a country that belongs to all of us. Go to ffrf.us/New Year or text Meidas to 511-511 today and help protect a country that belongs to all of us. Message and data rates may apply.
It's Jordy, everybody. It was great to see little Jordy on the show. Shout out to our sponsors. Discount codes are in the description below. Donald Trump press conference today. He was asked, were you aware that Secretary Lutnick visited Epstein Island? Were you aware? Were you aware that your Commerce Secretary brought his little children to the child rape island, Donald? Were you aware? Concerning to you, sir? Sir? I said, sir. That concern you at all? Play the clip.
Yeah, please.
Mr. President, were you aware that Secretary of Commerce visited Epstein's island, and do you continue to have?
No, I wasn't aware of it. No, I didn't. I actually haven't spoken to him about it. I wasn't. But from what I hear, he was there with his wife and children. And I guess in some cases, some people were. I wasn't. I was never there. Somebody will someday say that. I was never there. Yeah, please.
This announcement.
Yeah, because Mar-a-Lago was like Epstein Island. Like you were kind of living on your own version of that in a way. I mean, Mar-a-Lago objectively, undisputedly, was one of the sites where the child sex trafficking was taking place. Not even like I don't have to say alleged. It's not alleged. It happened. Virginia Giuffre was sex trafficked from Mar-a-Lago. She was a child at Mar-a-Lago. Like I know people, everyone wants to be so careful right now, allegedly. The guy's living in a home where sex trafficking took place. Let me just repeat it again. Right? The president of the United States, when he's not at the White House, lives at his main residence, which is actually a club, where sex trafficking happened. Hello? That's you're okay with that? Like that's an undisputed fact. That's where Virginia Giuffre worked as a child, and that's where she was recruited from. Trump can say he has no knowledge of it. He can make that argument. But in his statements, to at least the Palm Beach police chief, who claimed he spoke with Donald sometime in 2006 after Epstein was arrested, not before, after the arrest, when Trump wanted to cover his ass, in my opinion. That West Palm Beach police chief said that Donald Trump said that, yeah, he'd be around little girls, Epstein. And Trump said that would make him uncomfortable. Trump knew about it. He's also a liar about everything, but of course he knew about it. What do you think was happening when Donald Trump and Epstein would bring girls between the ages of 14, 15 to 22? They'd bring them over to Mar-a-Lago, and they would tell them that they were there for modeling events. Like, we know that happened. And it would just be Donald and Epstein there, according to one of the people in the modeling industry who brought these girls there. What do you think? What do you think was going down? What do you think was happening there? Do you think that maybe, just maybe, the guy who says he grabs women by their genitals because he's rich, you think maybe? You think the guy, Epstein, who was the biggest child sex trafficker in like human history, being your friend, hosting events like that? Like, you don't, like, what do you think? Like, what do you think happened? And it's stuff like that too, for me, as someone who reports on this. It's like, we know, like, why do we have to act allegedly? I could just stick with what's in the documents, right? I could read the document, go over what Donald Trump just said. What Donald Trump just said, he didn't even ask Howard. Just think about that from a leadership perspective. Imagine you ran a company, and it turns out that the person in your company, after saying that they knew, they were on notice, right? Lutnick's whole shtick, that he was on notice in 2005 that Epstein was involved in horrific conduct. So I never saw him again until you brought your little children and other children from other families to the island. So then you learn that about a coworker of yours. If you're the boss, you don't even ask after, hey, Howard, what happened? You don't want to have that conversation even? You're just okay with that, right? So at some point too, you are ratifying in law, going back to law professor mode, there's a concept called ratification. And let's just assume that Donald Trump knew nothing about this, right? Just as Men in Black, whatever they called that thing, then Men in Black, that would erase your memory. But now we just start today or this week, and Donald Trump sees that about Lutnick. Now you are on notice, and then you don't do anything. You take no action. In the law, that in and of itself is called ratification. And it's heinous. And that's one of the things that, that we're seeing in front of our eyes right now. I want to show you a few more things. First, I'll just show you from that same press conference. Trump is asked, so, okay, you think that there's nothing wrong with Lutnick bringing children to an island where children get raped? Nothing wrong with that, Donald. Okay. Any ramifications for the person who worked for you, who you claim was the person who photoshopped former President Obama and former Michelle Obama's faces onto apes? Any ramifications? Are they going to get fired? Any discipline? What's happened to that? Here's what Donald Trump says. Let's play it.
President, have you fired or disciplined that staffer who posted the video from your account that included the Obamas?
No, I haven't. That was a video on, as you know, voter fraud, and fairly long video, and they had a little piece and had to do with the Lion King. It's been very well, it's been shown all over the place long before that was posted. But that was a very strong, and I'm sure you saw it, a very strong piece on voter fraud. And the piece that you're talking about was all over the place many times, I believe for years. Yeah, please.
It was a very strong piece on voter fraud. You know, that's why I just always go back to it. It's like, it's not a Democrat, Republican, or independent issue. Like, if you like that guy, you're a horrible person. Like, it's just that simple. You are a bad person if you like that guy. What the hell? Now, I'm going to show you a clip here. And Jeremy, when I show this clip, just look for what I'm going to do, Jeremy, because I don't want to show the full clip of it. But I want to give people a flavor of what's going on in the right-wing media ecosystem. But I don't want to play a 2-minute clip of Nick Fuentes. But I just want to show people what's happening and how right-wing, ultra MAGA, ultra right-wing extremists view Donald Trump right now. So let's just play a little bit of this clip and then just watch from me, Jeremy. Let's play Fuentes first.
Trump is delusional. Okay? You need to know this. Trump is sick. He is a delusional person. I don't know if it's his age. I don't know if it's his personality. I don't know if it's because he's been in this reality distortion field for so long. But I know firsthand from people that talk to the president, from people that know the president, this guy is delusional. You pick up the phone and talk to the president. You go to a meeting and talk to the president. And I know people that have done this, and it's hours of self-congratulations, hours of, this is my most successful administration. We've done more than anybody. The East Wing is going great. We've got the best numbers. It's all the... So this is like the Mad King. This guy is sick. He leaves his own press. He is in his own world. Out here, in reality, everybody knows this is a disaster. Everybody knows immigration's a disaster. The economy's a disaster. The foreign policy's a disaster. It's a giant disappointment. This Epstein thing is a catastrophe. He doesn't know that. Now, because of that, and because of his cult-like control over the administration, he is advising his people to run this playbook. So I'm sure that...
Okay, let me show you Tim Pool, just to give you a sample of what's going on out there. Here, play this clip.
I ain't cutting Trump any slack. Now that we know that they've covered up the co-conspirator documents, there's a document saying that they were investigating co-conspirators Epstein. There's photos and videos of minors and children. Dan Bongino was like, look, a lot of these things were hearsay and, fake tips that were uncorroborated. All of that is true, but there's still no excuse for them not exposing these deep, dark, corrupt pedos. Like, I can understand. Bill Gates didn't do anything criminal. If it is true that he got an STD from Russian hookers and gave it to his wife on accident, that's not illegal. He got divorced. I can understand why it's embarrassing. And I can respect someone saying, please don't release that email. It's not material to anybody. It's just internal drama that's gross and embarrassing.
Yeah.
But there's other stuff in there, like that's already being brought up, that I would say is shocking to the conscience that Trump called it a hoax.
Or Andrew Schultz. Play the clip.
Ghislaine speaks with Trump's former lawyer, and then all of a sudden now she's in a nice cushy place, and all of a sudden she's pleading the fifth.
Yeah. And she said,
that's weird.
I'll blab if you let me out.
She says, if he gives me immunity or clemency, is that the word? What's the difference between clemency and immunity? I thought clemency, you take away the charges. Immunity is just like
you still have the charges, but anything I say can't be used against me.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay, so she wants clemency to clear Trump's name, and it's like
Well, if his name was clear, why do you need clemency?
Immunity is before, clemency's after. That's what they're saying.
Got it. Okay. But like, to me, like, is she shrewd enough to indict him that way? Like, is she smart enough to go, yeah, I'll clear Trump if you give me clemency? Well, if he's clear, why are you even putting that on the table?
That's
Well,
right? Like, just
she might be shrewd enough, but she doesn't have to be because her attorneys are meeting with her, being like, "Hey, just say this." You know what I mean?
enough.
Like, you have enough smart people working on her behest to be like, "Hey, here's what you're going to say in order to put pressure on the right."
Let me show you, as it relates to Ghislaine, the questioning by Democratic Congresswoman Ross, who did a very good job here. And she cross-examined Pam Bondi on why did you move Ghislaine to a club-fed VIP section in Camp Bryan, Texas? Why did you give her this upgrade? Put her in the best facility out there. To which Bondi says, I don't know how she got there. That wasn't me. But then there was a moment where Bondi forgot her script for just a single moment. And I'll show you the ramifications of not remembering the full script. Let's see if you can find out where Bondi breaks character for just a moment. Let's play it.
Attorney General Bondi, I think you and pretty much everybody else here and throughout the country believes that convicted sex offenders don't deserve special treatment or privileges in prison. And yet Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator, received perk after perk in prison. In July, she had a 2-day interview with your deputy and President Trump's former defense attorney, Todd Blanche. Just days after that, Maxwell was transferred from a federal correctional institution in Florida to a minimum security camp in Texas, which she, as a sex offender, would normally be ineligible for. At this new facility, as the ranking member talked about, and by the way, it's nicknamed Club Fed. We've heard reports that she's been afforded special privileges, puppy time, private workouts, personal mail, secretarial services. Attorney General Bondi, does a convicted sex offender like Ghislaine Maxwell deserve special treatment and privileges in prison? Yes or no?
Let me be crystal clear on this. No. And
Thank you.
let me keep going. No, let me keep going.
Perfect. Well, I
did not know she was being transferred.
I asked you yes or no.
She was not transferred to a lower
Mr. Chairman,
level.
please stop the clock and remind the witness of the rules. One rule she needs to understand
I'm glad
here.
that we're agreeing. So when we're agreeing, we can move on to some other things.
Yeah, later in that clip as well, Bondi says something like Ghislaine should rot in prison, or either she should die in prison, which was the one moment there, actually, of all of the stuff that Bondi said. That was the one moment, and it was that I thought was like a normal moment. But then she went on and denied that she had any knowledge of it. But she goes, no, I want Ghislaine to to serve the rest of her life and die in prison. So then Ghislaine responds right away. And yes, Ghislaine has access to social media. Her family operates an account for her. And and by the way, after invoking the Fifth Amendment and not testifying at all before the House, even though she spoke with Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney turned deputy attorney general, Todd Blanche, this was the statement posted by Ghislaine. America's Attorney General told a House Judiciary Committee meeting today she hopes Ghislaine Maxwell dies in prison. That is an extraordinary thing for a nation's chief law enforcement officer to wish. It sounds less like justice than bloodlust. Ghislaine is serving a 20-year sentence, not a life term. To hope it proves fatal blurs the line between punishment and revenge. The Justice Department is already under scrutiny for its handling of the Epstein files and now faces a simpler question. If the guardian of the law talks like a shock jock, what faith should the public have in the system she runs? What happened to prosecution without passion, to prosecution without prejudice? Keep that up there, though, so people can see. You realize that Ghislaine is doing what Epstein did to people, and which is what Trump does to other countries. Like, you realize, do we all see what's happening here? This is a shakedown And this is coded language right here, right? What she's saying is, this is a message to Trump, not a message to Bondi. And the message to Trump is, your Justice Department is already under scrutiny for its handling of the Epstein files. If the guardian of the law talks like a shock jock, what faith should the public have in the system she runs? Like, you all realize that she's saying, you want me to spill the beans? You want me to start giving the roadmap to some of the other documents out there? Don't forget that I hold the cards here against you, Donald. That's what this, if you think that this statement is not that, then that's naivety, because that's clearly what that statement is saying. Ghislaine likes Todd Blanche. And also what because that's who she spoke to. What I believe is happening here is Ghislaine wants Todd Blanche to be the Attorney General. Todd Blanche wants to be the Attorney General. Pam Bondi was trying to throw Todd Blanche under the bus for moving Ghislaine from Tallahassee to the facility in Texas, the Club Fed. So there was a lot of things happening there behind the scenes where Bondi couldn't say Blanche was the one who did it, but she was basically saying Blanche was doing it. Bondi wants to help Trump with the cover-up, but where Bondi lost sight of the script was, I think she hates Blanche. And so that's where she said she should rot in prison, not because she thinks Ghislaine should die in prison, but because she thought that was a good attack on Blanche. And then Ghislaine is stepping up, boom, with the statement right away, also saying, I did what you wanted me to do when Blanche spoke to me. I invoked the fifth. And now your AG is out there making these types of statements. I better hope, Donald, that that's just performative and she's just saying that, and our deal is not going to be ruined. And I think she's signaling to Donald, you know, you've got to make some statements now to like give me the assurance that we're still on the same page here. Now, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, and many people thought that my language about what was going on in the files and this or that was hyperbolic. It's all true. Everything of it was all true. Because they weren't wild predictions. I mean, I litigated. This is what I did for my whole life before doing MeidasTouch. I litigated these guys. I represented survivors in cases like this. I sued massive Ponzi scheme people, and I went through documents that had 20 million documents or 3 terabytes. That's what I did. This is what I did before starting MeidasTouch. So it's, you know, these are the type of investigations that I would do. These are the types of cases I would handle. It's so obvious. It's so obvious what is happening here. And then when you see the testimony of Lutnick and when you see the testimony of Bondi and you just see how these people are behaving, it's so obvious. I mean, isn't it so obvious to you what's going down here? Some people are asking what types of dogs I have. I have a toy poodle and I have a Maltese. So I have 2 dogs. The toy poodle is named Taquito and is called Chaquito, and the Maltese is Taquito. So the dogs are named Taquito and Chaquito. And if you're wondering, isn't that confusing? And that the dogs get confused over, it's accurate. It's I didn't think through that step. I like tacos. My favorite food is tacos. My mom would make tacos growing up. Tuesday, sometimes Thursday. And I like tacos, so taquito. And then Chaquito, you know, it's cute. So that's what their names are. I want to remind everybody that the Brother Show will be taking place tonight. The show I do, the Brother podcast I do, is also tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Make sure, love to see you there. We do a brother banter, different take, different perspectives. Obviously, we just come at it from the lens of 3 brothers. So make sure you watch that. I'll be excited to see everybody there live tonight. Check out our Substack, MeidasPlus.com. plus.com, MeidasPlus.com. That's our Substack. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, right? We're pretty close to 6 million subscribers. I'd love to try to get 6 million subscribers in February. Let's do our best to get there. And you can join and become a member of the YouTube, and you can gift memberships to other people on YouTube. And I'm not sure if you saw, but I'm sure you saw Pablo Manriquez, who works with the MeidasTouch network, and he works with our DC bureau. He was there on the ground in DC. He's been on the ground every day. And so a lot of the stories right now about what these lawmakers have been saying outside of Capitol Hill or on the steps of Capitol Hill, those are all Pablo Manriquez clips. And I mean, Pablo is leading the way right now in speaking with lawmakers, getting their perspectives. And so I'll give you an example of what Pablo Manriquez was able to capture. Here he is speaking with AOC on the steps of the Capitol building. Let's play it.
What did you make of the DOJ evidently tracking the search histories of your colleagues as you search for the Epstein files?
Deeply disturbing that Pam Bondi had, and they had preserved essentially, as you mentioned, search histories of sitting members of Congress on the Epstein files. They were looking at what members of Congress were looking at, and they were using that, importantly, as ammunition against them, their own search histories against them in a hearing by Pam Bondi. I think that
powerful. I'll show Congresswoman Jayapal also, because when she was being questioned, that's where we were able to see that her search history was captured by the DOJ. And then we learned that all of the search history of members of Congress who were given the access to the unredacted Epstein files, they were being spied on by the executive branch. Just think about it. One branch is spying on the other branch that has oversight functions without knowledge or notice, which is illegal wiretapping, by the way. It's a crime. It's a felony. It's a felony. But here's what she has to say. Let's play it.
What did you make of the DOJ apparently monitoring search histories as
it is so outrageous. I think we just put out a tweet on it. I mean, I found out about it because a reporter called me and wanted to know about the emails that I had searched. And I was like, how did you know what emails I searched? I mean, there is a separation of powers for a reason. This is spying. This is the DOJ spying on members of Congress and what we search. So we are putting together a letter with Ranking Member Raskin and others on the committee to say we need a full accounting of what you searched for, what you're using it for, and you need to stop that. We need a new process that assures us that you are not spying on members of Congress.
There you have it, everybody. Grateful for your time. Grateful for hanging out with you. I'll see you on the Brother Show this evening. Great episode. Great chat. We'll chat soon, everybody. Have a good one. Shout out to the Meidas Mighty, and we'll see you all soon. Have a good one.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.